having the opportunity to ask questions directly to our speakers. And finally, a closing session to wrap up today's event. Without further ado, let's begin our session. Singing Indonesian National Anthem.
We couldn't hear you, Mas Roban. We couldn't hear you, Mas Roban. Okay.
Juga itu.
Can I do that?
4 minutes.
Okay, I can do that for you, Roban.
Dr. Pia Laksmi, would you please? Yeah.
Tanah airku.
Would you please stop sharing?
Tanah tumpah.
Minute, Bu.
Aku pakai bukan.
Dari bantu ibuku. Indonesia tanahku, bangsa dan tanah airku. Marilah kita berseru, Indonesia bersatu. Hiduplah tanahku, hiduplah negeriku, bangsaku, rakyatku semuanya. Bangunlah jiwanya, bangunlah badannya untuk Indonesia Raya. Indonesia Raya, merdeka, merdeka, tanahku, negeriku, aku cinta. Indonesia Raya, merdeka, merdeka, hiduplah Indonesia Raya. Indonesia Raya, merdeka, merdeka, tanahku, negeriku yang kucinta. Indonesia Raya, merdeka, merdeka, hiduplah Indonesia Raya. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, next we'll listen to the March of Unnes. Please, Mas Oban. Okay.
Suaranya tidak ada, Mas Robat.
Okay. To officially start our event, I would like to invite the head of study program, Dr. Rahayu Puji Haryanti M. to deliver the opening speech. Please welcome Dr. Rahayu Puji Haryanti M. The time is yours, Ibu.
Okay. Am I audible? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished lecturers, esteemed students, and honored guests. A very warm welcome to everyone joining us for today's workshop on creative writing with a captivating theme, Talk Your Tongue, Poem and Regionalism. I'm truly delighted to stand before you today as we gather to explore the beauty and the power of language, culture, and identity through poetry and creative expression. This workshop, organized by the English Literature Study Program at the Faculty of Languages and Arts at Universitas Negeri Semarang, is a special opportunity for all of us to deepen our understanding of creative writing, an essential skill that not only sharpens our critical thinking, but also allows us to express our unique voices and stories. Our participants today include not only students and lecturers from our own university, Universitas Negeri Semarang, but also colleagues from universities across Indonesia under the APSDSE, or Association of Language and Literature Study Program in Indonesia. It is a privilege to host such a diverse and dynamic group of individuals, united by our own passion for literature and language. The theme, Talk Your Tongue, reminds us that language is more than just a tool for communication. It is a reflection of who we are, where we come from, and how we relate to the world around us. Regionalism in poetry gives voice to the nuances of our local experiences, cultures, and traditions, enriching the global literary landscape. In this workshop, we will learn how to capture the essence of our regions in our writing and transform them into works of art that resonate deeply with readers. To guide us on this journey, we are honored to have with us Dr. R. Priya Laksmi Priya. Okay, good morning, Dr. Laksmi Priya.
Good morning.
The esteemed CEO and founder of Pakidam Tales, a platform that has been instrumental in nurturing creative writing talent. Dr. Priya's passion for storytelling, coupled with her vast experience in literary and creative writing, makes her the perfect person to lead us in this workshop. Pakidam Tales is renowned for fostering a community of writers and creators, offering them the space and support to hone their craft, share their stories, and inspire others. We are fortunate to have her expertise and insight today as we embark on a creative exploration of our own. Through today's sessions, we hope that we will gain invaluable insights into the art of creative writing, whether we are here to develop our own writing skills or to better support our students in their creative endeavors. This workshop is designed to inspire, challenge, and empower us all. By the end of this workshop, it is our hope that we are inspired to start writing poems that reflect our unique regional identity. We envision that the works produced in this spirit will come together to form an anthology of poems that captures the essence of our region, showcasing the diverse voices, cultures, and experiences that define who we are. On behalf of the English Literature Study Program, Faculty of Languages and Arts, then I'd like to express my deepest gratitude to Dr. Priya for sharing her time and wisdom with us today. I also extend my appreciation to all of you for your enthusiasm and participation in this important event. Let this be a day of learning, creativity, and collaboration. Together, let's embrace the richness of our cultures and regional identities and bring them to the world through poetry. With that, it is my great pleasure to officially open this workshop. May today's discussion and activities inspire the writer in each of us, within each of us, and deepen our connection to our roots and our craft. Thank you, and let's make the most of this incredible opportunity. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you.
All right. Now it's time for the main event. But before the session begin, I'd like to read a brief introduction about Dr. Alasmi Priya. So Dr. Alasmi Priya is an educator who has traveled around the globe and helped students in developing countries to identify their creative passion. She is the founder and CEO of Takidem Tales, a creative platform that connect artists, creators, writers, and technicians with brands and patrons. She had recently joined Vartaman Publishers as joint managing director. She will be overseeing the translation of other regional language materials into Tamil and English as a part of her work. She has worked with more than 400 books in 14 languages. Her ardent love for voicing women's rights has led her to campaign for a global networking platform for women from all walks of life, cutting across spatial zones. She spearheads the campaign for recognizing and arranging award shows as a part of Women Empowerment Program. She is also passionate about translating Tamil literary work to English and vice versa, which fits her passion for literature. She has translated Sweta Prakash, How Elan Twisted Its Horn into Tamil, and at present she has translated Haruki Murakami's Sputnik Sweetheart into Tamil for a publishing house. She has published an anthology of horror short stories published by Ukyoto, a Canadian-based publishing house. She is also a visiting professor in Jenderal Sudirman University, Indonesia, and Royal University of Bhutan. She has delivered lectures in more than 50 universities in India and abroad. She received her doctorate from Bharatidasan University on the title Decolonizing the Sleuth, Analysis of Postmodern Anti-Detective Fiction. She is working on its publication at present. And now, please join me in welcoming our esteemed speaker, Dr. Arlaxmi Priya, who will be sharing her expertise on the topic Talk Your Tongue, Poem, and Regionalism. Now, over to you, Dr. Priya. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I always find it a great privilege to be invited in Indonesia. I consider Indonesia my second home. And every time it says Indonesia, Raya, Merdeka, Merdeka, I get goosebumps actually. Thank you, Unnes. Thank you, Buyayu, for this opportunity. Thank you,
Yes.
all of you great faculties whom I have been in contact. It's been nearly 3 years since I came to Indonesia, but I really miss Indonesia. I miss your food. I miss the
Thank you.
culture. I miss everything. And this is the only way we can connect. I hope to see you all soon in person. When I and Buyayu had this discussion on workshop and poetry, and she said we are working on indigenous poems at the moment, and she asked me for my topic. I thought I should give a topic, and I wanted it to be an instruction. So that's why it doesn't say please talk your tongue. It says talk your tongue. So it's going to be like we need to start talking our tongue. We have been influenced by um, Americans, British, and West in general for a very long time now. And it's 21st century. The barriers that we had before have started to vanish. We see that because of technology. We see that because of internet. And I think this is the right time to talk our tongue. It is the right time to tell our stories, our narratives, our language. When we think of poetry generally, the first thing that comes to our mind is rhyme. we would have learned, A, B, B, A, B, C, then A, all of these rhyme schemes, rhythm schemes we have learned. I'm going to break all that. I'm going to make you think a little different. It's not, it's whatever I'm going to, talk with you today is not something that you do not know, but I feel that we need to start focusing more on rhyme, not on rhyme and rhythm, but on emotions. So let's go. So the first thing that comes to our mind when we were students, like, when I was in my school, when we were taught a poem, the first thing that our teacher would ask us to do is find out the sentence. In the end, we had to mark A, B, A, B. That rhyming pattern was predominant for poetry. But today, when I see my students read, or when I see your works, when I see works on internet which are very popular, when I see the poetry books that are published today, I don't see rhyme. I don't even see rhythm. Then what has poetry moved to? That's a very interesting thing. That I find this phenomenon very interesting. If I have to write in Tamil, then necessarily in Tamil there are words that rhyme. So I use those words. Similarly, if I have to write in English, there are words that rhyme. For example, cat, bat, hat, mat. That way, if I take kurandai, karandai, that way, if I do in Tamil, also there are words that rhyme. But if I try to mix two languages, if I'm trying to write my tongue, because that's the way I talk around 4 to 5 languages, and my thinking language is English because I have been talking in English for a long time. What I speak is a native tongue here. Other than that, my language, my own mother tongue is Tamil. So English overlaps with Tamil. I think this happens to you as well. Like you think in English, you talk a lot in English because you have to talk necessarily in English. And then when you go home, immediately there is a shift. You immediately talk Bahasa. What happens is that when you sit down and write, certain emotions you are able to express it really well in English, but certain emotions you can express it only in your tongue. You can express it only in your tongue. Now, if we have to take a post-colonial word like Salman Rushdie's coinage called chutnification, where it is okay to combine two languages. It is okay to combine. Buyayu did her PhD in Arundhati Roy. Now, in Arundhati Roy's A God of Small Things, it's an English novel. In the end, she finishes with the Malayalam word, which is her mother tongue. She finishes the story with the word Nale. Now, people who read Nale need not know the meaning. They can always go and search, okay, what is Nale? Now, this is exactly what I mean by talking our tongue. Sometimes we have this barricade of not able to express certain emotions, and rhyme or rhythm is the hurdle. Since we have to write in one particular language, what happens is we are not able to convey everything that we want with rhyme and rhythm. Now let's break that boundary. So if we stop using rhyme and rhythm, or if we don't focus on rhyme and rhythm, then what is more important? That is where we come to the tone and emotion. I would like you to do something. Remember your favorite poem. Just take a moment and remember your favorite poem. Now, you wouldn't remember the favorite poem for the rhyme. You wouldn't remember the favorite poem for the rhythm, but you would remember for the emotion that it gave me. For example, if I close my eyes, my favorite poem is Carol and Duffy's Onion. I do not know how many of you have know Carolyn Duffy or have read Carolyn Duffy, but I'm going to leave it in the chat box. Just try this poem. She was Carolyn Duffy was getting an interview done. She was being interviewed, and all of a sudden the interviewer asks her, "Can you tell a poem on Valentine's Day?" And Caroline Duffy immediately starts telling a poem out, like in a FM. She says, I want to tell a poem, but I don't want it to be conventional. So she says, I'm not going to give rose. I'm not going to give beautiful gifts, but I'm going to give you an onion. onion, I'm going to give you an onion to her lover. And then she goes on to explain why onion is a beautiful gift for Valentine's Day. She says onion is seriously, when you keep it in your tongue, it has a pungent smell. So like that, you will always remember me. Every time you cut the onion, your eyes tear up. So, you have to remember me. She uses all those sensibilities and she beautifully brings out, how onion, instead of the beautiful rose, onion becomes a symbol of love for Carol and Duffy. This is my favorite poem. Similarly, when I asked you to remember, you would have remembered a poem of yourself. And that particular poem, you would remember only for the emotion and the tone that it speaks, not for the rhyme or the rhythm. If that is the case, how do we convey what do we have to convey? The easiest way to convey what do we have to convey through poetry is by using certain elements. We can call it as metaphors. Now, this metaphors, generally what happens is when we are talking about metaphor, that is where we can use our own regional, regional nuance. For example, if you go back and look at Irish poetry, in most of the Irish poetry, you will come across this word peat, P-E-A-T. That is because they talk about their landscape. If it is Scottish poetry, they talk about their landscape. If it is American poetry, there is always American spirit along that goes along with it. But when it comes to Indian poetry, if it is a regional language, if it is written in Tamil or in Tamil or Malayalam or Kannada or Telugu, I find a lot of metaphors that are based on my own region. But when I read when I read an English poem written by an Indian, I do not find it. Because they try to imitate Western audience. They try to bring Western metaphors inside. I think that is not us. I think that we have to break that as well. So how do we bring in our own metaphor? Now, for that, I'm going to quote a classical Tamil text called Tolkapiyam. In Tamil, we have this text called Tolkapiyam, which was written nearly on 2nd century BC. Now, this particular poet, what he does is he subscribes a set of rules for poetry writing, and when he is doing that, he says that every human is influenced by their landscape. That is very true, right? Now, if you ask me to write, I will be able to write only about my landscape. If I am in a mountain place, I will write more about mountain. If I am in somewhere in a beach, if I am near a seashore, I will write about seashore. If I live near forest, my poetry, my thinking, my thought process, everything will be around forest. Now, how much ever you ask me to write about volcano, I cannot write about volcano because I have experienced volcano in Indonesia only as a tourist. I hope you understand. So, my friends, when they come from different countries here, for example, I recently had a couple from Nepal who had come here. Now, we have coconut trees in India. We have a lot of coconut trees in India, particularly the place where I live. We are surrounded by coconut trees. But there in Nepal, they don't get coconut trees. So the moment, I offered tender coconut to them, they were like, oh, I want to drink more of tender coconut. So they get tender coconut, but it is very pricey. It is very costly over there. I hope you understand where I'm getting. Now, if I ask those couple to write about coconut water or tender coconut, their experience is only of a tourist experience. They cannot write about the growth of the coconut tree. They do not know how coconut tree grows. They do not know how to pluck coconut from the coconut tree, because it's a very big process. A person needs to know. I can't climb a coconut tree and pick, but I can climb a mango tree, because mango tree is easy. There are so many branches. You can climb a mango tree. But on the other hand, if you have to climb a coconut tree, it's challenging. But only a native can explain that through their words to the people who do not know about it. Now, imagine, when how much we are blessed with nature, like Indonesia, India, we are blessed so much with nature. Today we talk about, global index card, global index certificate, where, different unique flora and fauna that is related to our own land, other countries talk about, but we don't explore it. We don't talk about it. It is important to bring those metaphors into our writing process, into our reading process. So next time when you are writing a poetry, think from your own region, think from your own flora, your own fauna. And then personification. Today in 21st century, the word personification has changed a lot. You are all students of literature, so you know the word, you know the meaning of word personification. But how much of personalization do we put it in personification? For all of these, I'll be giving example in a while, but I want you to just remember in these ways. First, metaphor, see it as a global scenario and then a regional scenario. But personification, see it as a very personal way of putting it. Now every one of us carry an identity. For example, I am a I am a I am a Hindu. Now, but when I talk in Indonesia, I always say salam alaikum. And you respond back to me. Now, if I'm talking to a Tamil crowd, students in Tamil Nadu, I do not tell vanakkam. But my students in Indonesia say vanakkam to me. When they are texting me, when they are doing mail, they Google it out and then they find out and they say vanakkam to me. This cross culture, this cross body, this cross culture that we are having, that's fascinating. I do not know how many of you go to classrooms in Indonesia and actually start the class with salam alaikum. Most of us would be starting it with good morning. Because, am I right? That is because we are so much westernized in our mindset. We think we are teaching English literature, so we need to, we need to project Western culture in everything that we do, in the way we eat, in the way we speak, in the way we pronounce words. Now, this pressure does not make us liberate when it comes to poetry. Poetry is a form of liberation. Poetry is not something you can restrict. Poetry is not something that you can curtail down. Poetry shouldn't seize you down. When we talk about rhyme or rhythm, what happens is if you're writing something down, we have to go to thesaurus. We have to find the word that is rhyming with it, then get it back. And then, for that rhyme to work out, we change the sentence the way the rhyme works, rather than we putting the words the way we want it. So do not think of poetry as a restriction. Now, let us liberate in poetry. And how do we do it? By completely eliminating the shackles that we have of Western world, the influence that we have of Western world. One thing that I find common between my friends in Indonesia and my students in Bhutan, my students in Nepal, my students in India is that none of us read regional literature. We do not read Indonesian literature. We do not read Indian literature. We do not read Nepalese literature or Bhutanese literature. Even if we read, we do not give that importance that we give to Western literature. Ask yourself that question. How many of us actually do research papers on our own culture? Until and unless we are told, you have to do it in Indonesian culture, we do not do it. We always think, okay, we can talk about somebody else. We can talk about an American. We can talk about a Britisher. We can talk about a German author. We can talk about a Nobel Prize winner. But we never think, okay, let us do research on our own work. Now, what happens is, since we are not reading in our own tongue, our reading style has completely changed and our thought process has become Western. Now, when our thought process has become Western, the problem that we face is that the metaphors or personification that we use also is Westernized. I'll give you a simple example. Recently, we were developing a book for kindergarten students. Now, that was on shapes: square, rectangular, circular, cone, all of those things. For triangular, the image that we got was sandwich. Sandwich, the sandwich that we eat, triangular sandwich. I went to a rural school and showcased this to the students there. The students were in their first standard, second standard. They were like 5 to 6 years old. In the classroom of 50, not even 3 people recognized a sandwich. Because sandwich is not our food. Sandwich is not an Indian food. But in all the textbooks that we see in India, for triangle, the image that is given is a sandwich. So how can children imagine a sandwich and triangle if we do not give examples from our own culture? My suggestion would be give a samosa. I do not know if you know a samosa. If we give a samosa, then they will be able to connect with it because they know samosa. They do not know a sandwich. That is where regionalism works, because when we communicate from our own examples, from our own tongue, we are able to communicate better and people are able to follow it better. That's where regionalism comes. And let's think of it this way: age, moment, milli. Anywhere, anytime, when you're writing, always think what your readers want rather than what you want to write about. Because what is people reading? If people are reading similar kind of text, by breaking that similarity, you become a unique creator. That's the easiest way, right? This is not something that I said. In 20th century, Ezra Pound says that, make it new. He says, make it new. Whatever you're doing, stop doing that. Just make it new. Do something different. Now, writing process also should be like that. Think of the age. What are people reading? Stop doing whatever others are doing and start doing something new. Think of the moment. Now we are living in a highly technologically boosted environment. Whenever I talk to teachers, whenever I talk to my fellow teachers, they always say that we have this program called faculty development program. They always say that, ma'am, our students are really good in technology, but we are not that good in technology. When we go and start teaching in the class, they open their Google and they say, ma'am, this whatever you are saying is not right. Google says something differently. We live in that kind of a technological world. So how do we influence students? By living in the moment. So let us start incorporating technology in our writing process. I'll give you examples. I'll tell you how we can do that. And then Millie. Millie is an emotion that the society has at the moment. As I said, we are living in that beautiful generation where all of us have started talking about regionalism. We have started giving importance to regionalism. I'm going to talk about this one particular poet called Rupi Kaur. She is an Instagram poet. She is called an Insta poet. She is settled in UK. She is of Indian origin. She has written 3 anthologies, but she is not a poet who published first and became famous. Rather, she started posting on Instagram, and Instagram started gaining so much of followers. Then, publishers went to her and said, why don't we publish your book? So that is how she published. And the title for her book is called Milk and Honey. Now, this Milk and Honey is very interesting title because she uses the metaphor that is very parochial for India, milk and honey. We mix milk and honey and drink. I do not know if you have that culture there. Now, this milk and honey becomes milk and money for Rupi Kaur because she knows how to transcend writing poetry to becoming famous, to becoming rich. That is the process that she has to. I'll give you an example of her poetry. Just this is an example of poetry. Can you see it? Should I expand it a little more? Do airports not have wires because we are scared of connection? And then she also uses a little image under it. Under every poem of hers, she uses a little image. Do airports not have wires because we are scared of connection? Now, there is 4 lines in this poem. just look how much she has integrated from 21st century. AirPods is a technological term. She is directly addressing 21st century born children by talking about AirPods. She's not writing for people who do not know Instagram. She's writing for people who knows Instagram. And then we live in a world of ADHD where everybody has very little attention span. You cannot listen to a lecture for 40-45 minutes. You need a lot of interesting things to keep you occupied. Similarly, we don't read long novels anymore. So what she does is she just writes 4 lines. Every day she writes 4 lines and posts it. Now, look at the image, the use of image. Why does she use that image? When she uses image, you are interested, you become curious in knowing the image. And whatever you do not understand through the words, she conveys it through the image. For example, some of us may not know what AirPod is. So our image supports. So these are 3 things that integrates. See, she has an image. Her poems are short and crispy. She uses technology in her poem. She uses 21st century informations in her poem. She is more of a person who talks for the tongue of today. And that is how she becomes famous, and that is how she becomes rich. So, what comprises a poem in 21st century? Let's start from the basics. Whatever you know about poetry, let us erase it. Whatever we have been taught in school, when we read 20th century, 18th century, 17th century, all those history of English literature poems, let's erase it because they are out of fashion right now. William Wordsworth is out of fashion right now. If you have to write, we have to write for our own audience. We have to write politically correct statements. We have to always remember to integrate people. We have to remember to bring in a universal imagery. So, I'm going to skip these slides. I'm going to go to example and then come back again. This is some poetry. This is one poetry that I've been reading. It's Najwa Karim. Just look at this poetry. She writes a collection of poetry called hijab poetry. Now, why is hijab poetry so interesting for me? Because she brings her own personalized metaphor. Look at it. No, hijab is my crown, because you wear it in the head, shaped in a circle around my head like that of a full moon. The hijab that she is talking about is a little different from the hijab that we wear in Indonesia. In Middle East, where Najwa Karim writes from, they also close till ear and ear, right? So only eyes are visible sometimes, and then sometimes they close till ear and this part is alone visible, right? So what happens is it looks like a moon, half moon. And then when we have complete hijab here, it looks like a full moon. Look at the metaphor that she is trying to bring in. Now, this is uniqueness. This is uniqueness. Only you can write about your body. Only you can write about your culture. Only I can write about my culture. So I want to give you a poem from my own work. All my childhood, I grew up very insecure about my body. That is because I have curly hair. And in India, it is not very common to find curly hair. Of 100 people, only 3 to 4 people have curly hair. So my friends used to always mock at me. They used to tell that, I have noodles like hair, noodles hair. So I grew up very insecure. Then when I grew up, I started using my hair as my own unique point. Now a lot of people recognize me for my hair. So I started writing more poetry based on hair, because there are children who grow up that way, who grow up with insecurity because of their hair, because of their body, because of their color, because of the way their eyes are or noses. We come across a lot of All of us have insecurities. Now, embrace that insecurity. Make that into content for your poetry. So, this is one of those poems that I wrote. She stood on her fort and looked down at a papaya tree. Its golden fruit reminded her of the moon she saw sometimes in the dark night. She stepped down on the clouds, hopped a bit, walked on the canopies of trees. On the days when she walked on the tallest timber, she felt the glee and unknotted her locks. On those days, children clutched her strands like a prop root and swung to their art's content. So there is this tree called banyan tree. Do we have banyan tree in Indonesia? So in banyan tree, what in India, what children do is they clutch that propelling root and they hang like that. They do swing like that. So I imagined a girl who has a hair like me, who, when she's so happy, she just unknots her hair. So the children hold it and then they play with the hair. They do swing like that. So now banyan tree becomes a metaphor here for the hair. Let me go back. So prose poetry. When we take out rhythm and rhyme, what we get sometimes maybe free verse, sometimes maybe blank verse. We can also embrace a new form of poetry that has been there from 20th century called prose poetry. Prose poetry is where you use metaphor, where you use personification, where you use a lot of imagery, where you use symbolism, but it need not be in the structure of a poem. It can be paragraph after paragraph after paragraph after paragraph. It is okay. There is another very interesting form of poetry called info poetry or infotainment poetries. Now, info poem is something, a, it is a poem that gives you an information about a piece. There is this Australian advertisement called Dumb Ways to Die. After this class, please go to YouTube and check this poem, okay? It's called Dumb Ways to Die. It's about, it's written by Australian traffic police. They say that there are so many dumb ways to die. You can hang yourself, you can go swimming with the whale and then, the whale can eat you. There are so many dumb ways to die. But why do you have to not wear helmet in the road and, drive the bike? Don't die that way. There are so many dumb ways to die, but don't die die in road accident. Be careful in road accident. Look at the way they tell it. No, they make it into a fun poem so that you remember to wear your helmet every time you use your bike, or you remember to put your seatbelt every time you drive the car. So please go and check your YouTube for this. Here in India, I have a client. He's a doctor. He treats a lot of children who have thyroid problem. Now, to make it interesting, what he does is he writes a lot of rhymes. Like, he writes a rhyme as to, I don't go walking. And you know what? One day I feel so tired. Things like that. And finally, how thyroid, how thyroid comes and how we have to react to thyroid. There are so many info poems that one can write. When we were children, our teacher used to make us learn biology through poems. For example, if she is teaching about chlorophyll, she will make it into a poetry so that we remember it. If she is talking about photosynthesis, she will again make it into a poetry. Poetry is a very interesting way to remember things. So info poem really sells well and works well, and it is very interesting to write as well. Then AI poems. Most of us have this problem. We do not write. We want to write, but we do not write. And you know what we tell? If I ask you to write, I'll tell you, okay, tomorrow write a poetry and come. You will not write. You will say, ma'am, I didn't have time. Ma'am, I didn't know what to write about. Yes, you'll always have, I don't know what I want to write, but I don't know what to write about. We keep procrastinating because we do not have time, or we think that we don't have time. To break that, there are we can use artificial intelligence for that. Artificial intelligence is a very good companion. You don't need people at all. If you have to write poem, there are beautiful ways in which AI can help you out. All you have to do is ask AI that I want to write a poem. It will give you a beginning line, like it will give you 1 or 2 lines, and then you can continue writing. You can use ChatGPT to do that. Just get 2 lines from ChatGPT, and then continue writing that poem. Finish the poem, and then delete the 2 lines that ChatGPT gave you. There are so many apps like that where you can use AI for your own advantage. If you do not know what to write about, there is another thing. In online, you find a lot of poetry society. There are a lot of society where they will give you prompts on everyday basis. It will be either a word or a painting or an object. Imagine I'm showing you a cell phone. I'm telling, okay, write about cell phone. Immediately your mind works in one singular way. You think only about cell phone and writing poetry. But if I tell you write about something, you do not know what to write, right? So when we have a prompt, it is easier to work. It is easier to work with it. If I tell you write about duck, you can think of duck poems. But if I tell you write something, you nothing comes in your mind immediately. So to break that barrier, prompts work. If you have to practice writing, join prompt poem. There are so many prompt websites. I can even share some of it with you after the session. Join there. Every day they give you a prompt. Try writing 4 to 5 lines every single day. That will help you. Then comes illustrated poem. Illustrated poem is the best way to write. If you have lost touch in writing, or if you are starting to write, start with the doodle. When you have a note, you always doodle something. You just scribble something in the corner, scribble something, and then use that as an inspiration and create. Then we have hypertext poem. Again, a very interesting way of writing. What you do is you write in one I do not know if you have seen an hypertext poem. It's very interesting to read. It goes on like this. Like there will be one paragraph, and then there will be a hypertext. You click that link, it will take you to a different link. There you will have another stanza. Then you read that, and then it will click, and then you click the hypertext, and then it will take you to a different poem. Now what happens is, through hypertext poem, we are able to break our own barrier, because we cannot read a full long poem. We live in that kind of a generation where we need so many screens open. Now if you ask me to Google, I will have at least 7 or 8 screens open at this moment. We'll always have multiple screens that is open, right? We will have a YouTube, we will have an Instagram open, we will have FB open, we will also be listening to Zoom. Now how many of you are actually texting? How many of you are actually using Facebook? That's very true, right? We will be doing multiple things at the same time. Now imagine bringing all these experience one as a hypertext poem. You write 3 lines in Instagram, then you write 3 lines in Facebook, you write 3 lines in Twitter, and then you write 3 lines in chat box in Zoom class here. It will be an interesting experience for people to read as well. So, writing can be an experience of liberation, as I said. So don't restrict yourself by following rules. Writing need not necessarily be that you take a note, you write, you bring a pen, and then you start writing. Nobody does it anymore. Wherever you find time, write 2 lines. If you're waiting for a bus to come, if you're waiting in a railway station, just start writing in your phone. Write a message to somebody whom you know. So that is one way of constantly being in touch with poetry. Similarly, along with all those websites that you have open, have poetry websites open all the time with you, so that you're constantly inspired to write something. Then we come to multimedia poem. Multimedia poem is when you know, you listen to a music, or you see a painting, or you watch a YouTube video, or you just watch reels on Instagram or Facebook or somewhere, you know, and then you want to integrate it. For example, I was talking about thyroid poem, right? Now, this doctor, what he does is he makes it into a rap song, and he uploads it in his YouTube. So people who do not want to read it can always hear it. Similarly, you can write it, you can make it into a podcast, you can even, you know, if you know to play a musical instrument, you can give a background music for it, and then upload it online, so that you start creating multimedia poems just with the background, you know, just with there are so many wares that are available today, where you don't even need to know to play a musical instrument. You can just download a copyright free musical, uh, whatever instrument you like, you can download a copyright free material, a song or a tune or something, and then write for that, and then upload it online, so that, you know, a lot of people will start reading you, a lot of people will start hearing you. You don't Now poetry need not be just visual, it can also be audio, it can also be audio visual, it can be a YouTube video where, you know, you can do a little bit of animation, and then, you know, put subtitles to it, so it can be an audio visual. So it can be everything, it can be anything, it can be a lot of things. Don't think of poetry as something that we see in print, that we see in paper. It is not that anymore. Mythopoesis. Now, mythopoesis is basically myth plus poetry. Your country has its own myth. Our country has its own myth. Now, combine this mythical ideas, mythical creatures, mythical heroes, mythical heroines, you know, all of them, and start creating. For example, Sokarto, right? Sokarto, right? Sokarto is a freedom fighter, right? In Indonesia. I'm not sure whether
Soekarno, Soekarno,
Sokarno.
yeah, Soekarno.
Yeah, Sokarno. Now, I didn't see, I'm not even pronouncing it right properly, because I do not know. Write about him, because he is a hero. I went to this museum in Jakarta. I went to a museum, and I found out about his life. I have a lot of photos, but when I googled him out, I didn't find any poetry or anything related to him. So you can write about your own myth, your own heroes, your own freedom fighters, your own people. You in every village there will be somebody who is unique, you know, some woman who has done something significant. Bring those characters into the poetry that you write. That is the way you not just pay tribute to them, but also make people who are not from your country, from your culture, from your region, understand. For example, I'll tell you, in Tamil Nadu, we have 32 districts in total. And everywhere, the region is different. The plants that are grown there is different. The animals that are found there is different. The language that we speak is different. Like, you know, it's all Tamil, but the way we pronounce Tamil is different. So when it comes to that, if I am writing, I have to write from the district that I live in. I live in Trichirappalli, so I have to write about my own history. Only then the people in the next district will be able to know my district. So bring your own myth, your own heroes into the poetry that you write. So next time when you do not know what to write about people whom you know. As I said, there are so many ways to making it new. And the best way to do is through flora and fauna. Find out, list out the indigenous foods, indigenous plants, indigenous animals that you have in Indonesia. When I was having a training by an Australian poet before 8 years, when I was doing my master's, she came to India and she taught us to write on indigenous poetry. And she told that you have to choose one indigenous species and write about it. And I wrote about turmeric. Turmeric. Turmeric has become something global today. Everybody knows turmeric. But turmeric is this yellow color powder. Do you know turmeric? Can you
Yes.
Google out turmeric?
Yes, yes. Turmeric
Yeah,
is
you not
also
you
found in
you have
Indonesia.
turmeric. You cook with turmeric. What do you do with turmeric?
Rice,
For drinking.
rice, yellow rice. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
you make yellow rice out of it?
yeah,
Oh, I didn't
yeah.
eat it when I
Yellow
was.
rice.
Oh, interesting. You make yellow rice out of it. What we do is we put it in
Yeah.
everything, except for rice. In India, we put it in. I mean, in South India, we put it in everything except for rice. Rice is white in color, but we put it in the gravy. We call it sambar.
Oh, I
We
see.
put it in sambar. We put it in rasam. We put it in
Oh,
vegetables. We put turmeric everywhere. Everywhere you can find in our cuisine, but not in rice.
oh, I
Now
see.
this is interesting, right? You put it in rice. We don't put it in rice, but it's the same product.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Recently I started a nursery at my home, like in balcony I started growing some vegetables. I wanted to buy rosemary. I went around nurseries asking for rosemary. Nobody knew what is rosemary, because in India we don't cook rosemary. I mean, in India we don't cook rosemary, but since I am inspired by Italian cuisine, I wanted to cook rosemary. So there is always this influence. There is always this influence that happens. We cook everything differently. We make everything differently. Now bring that into your poetry. List out flowers that belong to your place. List out about leaves that belong to your place, and then include that in your poetry. Talk about your travel experience. Talk about your land. Talk about where one can go in your land. In that would make your poem again unique. And then finally coming to the most favorite word of 21st century is mental health. This is one thing. Um, when I talk to faculties or teachers or students, anybody, we always talk about how depressed we are after COVID, how stressed out we are, how burnt out we are. We work for long hours. There is nothing interesting going on. There is nothing creative. We don't travel anymore like we used to do before. We don't take risk. We are after COVID. We are very scared to take risk. So we want, when we get money, we want to invest in buying land. We want to invest in buying automobiles, properties. Finishing off our loan. Our life has changed after COVID. But what are we doing for ourselves now? Take time, write about your feelings, write what you want to do. Because writing is healing. Writing is the best way to heal your wounds. Writing is the best. When you go out and tell it to your friend may tell it out to somebody. When you go and share it with your family member, they may look at you differently. But when you write it in a paper, and then and then you can even tear it down in pieces and put it in dustbin, nobody is going to know what you have written. But writing is the best way to heal. So write a lot and use writing as a healing process for yourself. Whenever you're feeling lonely, whenever you're feeling depressed, stressed, write it out. Writing helps you focus. Writing helps you rejuvenate yourself and enjoy your life. Incorporating your own culture. Now, use language. Don't think language as a barrier. You look at the monuments that are around you. When I came to Indonesia, I wrote about Borobudur, I wrote about Prabanan. I wrote about all these temples that I visited with Buyayu. That is because these temples inspired me a lot to write. So write about your monuments, write about the museums in Indonesia, write about the archives in Indonesia, write about forests in Indonesia, write about everything that you have not read before. Because we don't write, if you Google it out, just Google out Indonesian forest poetry, you will come only across 3 poems. That's seriously bad. That's really bad. There are no enough material that are, because Indonesia has such beautiful forest scape. but we English literature students are not writing about it. So it's our duty to write about it. So this is a poem that I wrote when I was in forest. I digitally detoxified and I went to a forest, and I lived in forest for 3 days with no phone, nothing. And that is when I wrote this poem. I also took painting brush, everything along with me. I painted, I wrote like 30-40 poems, and then I compiled it into a book. In those 3 days I wrote 30-40 poems. See how productive we can be without phone, without technology, without internet. We can be really productive. So I painted everything, and it came out as a book last year called Coil. This is one poem from that. I have kept this poem particularly because I have used the word sari in it. Sari is the dress that we wear in India. I'm not wearing a sari right now, but sari is a dress that we wear in India. When Buyayu came to India, we took her to the shop and we made her wear sari. She looked really pretty in sari. And when I came there to Indonesia, I tried, your cultural dress, and uh, this experience is unique to us. So let's talk about our clothing as well. Just look at this poem. The forest screamed, the leaves rustled, animals groaned, the earth wept blood. She saw their suffering, she heard their pain. She gathered her flowing sari and walked towards the noise, towards the elephants, towards the monkeys and tigers, caressing them, kissing their forehead, wiping their teared cheek as she walked in to the grounds where sun rays never penetrated. The scream of the forest trees. Slowly bees buzzed, wild birds harmoniously moaned, and she gulped the green. When we go in forest searching for happiness, the animals which come to us are also searching for somebody who would take care of them. The elephants, we pollute the world so much that elephants do not have a proper place to live in now. They always come to they always come to landscape to drink water from our troughs, because we have deforested completely and we have built building around it. Even today morning we had so many monkeys in our balcony because there are no fruit bearing trees outside in the apartment. This happens. So we need to start understanding that we need to start growing our own vegetables. We need to start feeding our animals. We need to have become socially consciousness, and we need to incorporate the social consciousness sense into our poetry writing as well. So what new do you bring to the table? I wanted to talk a little bit about food poetry as well. This is a poem that I wrote when I was in Indonesia. Whatever I ate, I bought it into an element. So I think you would be connected with this poem. I'm magnetized by your smell. Everything reminds me of you. Pandan of your smile. I ate pandan cake in Indonesia. I still miss pandan. Pandan. We don't get it in India here. Then I ate cassava cake while I was in Indonesia. Oh, that was awesome. So cassava cake of your skin, because cassava cake is so smooth, right? It reminded me of the skin. Babu Ranjan of your hair, because Babu Ranjan is so dark in color. The porridge that you make, the sweet dish that you make, is so dark in color, so it reminded me of your hair. Martabak of your lips. Buya, you took me to eat martabak, and it is one thing that I have never tasted in my life. Like slow cooked jackfruit, I'm melting little by little every day, oozing out my essence. Now, here, what I mean by slow cooked jackfruit is not something that I ate in Indonesia, but my husband eats non-veg. So he had also come with us to Indonesia, and he ate a particular dish. I'm not able to remember it. It is made of slow cooked meat. Um, it was a very interesting. It has a very interesting. I'm not
Yeah.
able to remember it.
Meat, is it meatballs? Meatballs?
Huh?
Meatballs? Kind of bakso here. Okay.
Oh
Yeah,
no,
good.
oh no,
Good,
no.
good. Yeah.
Rendang.
Oh, rendang. Yeah, rendang.
Rendang.
Rendang, right? Now,
Rendang.
rendang
Yeah,
is
Rendang.
rendang
it's
from
a
Padang.
slow cooked meat,
Hmm,
right?
yes.
And when I asked him how it is, because I don't eat non-veg, I cannot taste it and see. So I kept asking him, how is it? How is it? How is it? How is it? And he said it is melting in my mouth. I was reminded of slow cooked jackfruit that we get in Kerala. And I was able to compare that, though it is a spicy food and this is a sweet food, the melting process and the slow cooking process. So I wanted to incorporate that as well. Like a slow cooked jackfruit, I'm melting little by little every day, oozing out my essence. So this is something that I wrote, inspired by Indonesia. So I think with this, I'm done for the day. If there is any question and answer, if there is any questions, please ask me. I would like you to take this session as a starting point where we have discussed about flora, fauna, we have discussed about language barriers, we have discussed about monuments, we have discussed about, incorporating our own leaders, our own national heroes, our own mythological heroes, our own mythical. One another thing that I wanted to mention, when Buyayo took me to a temple in Semrang has beautiful sunset, but she took us during a sunset to a particular temple where there was dragon. I asked Boyayu, isn't dragon Chinese symbol? How is it there in Indonesia? And she told me a story about it. It was very interesting. Now incorporate that in your narrative. Tell these kind of stories. Tell mythical stories. Tell dragon stories. Because in Indian narrative, in any of Indian mythology, there is no mention of dragon at all. You can take any book in India, mythological story, there is no mention of dragon at all. So we always thought dragon is very Chinese in nature. But then when I came to Indonesia, I was like inspired. Oh, there is a story for dragon in Indonesia. So tell these stories out. Use your region for your own favor and start creating narrative about it. So talk your tongue. Thank you so much for the time. I'm opening for questions. If you have any questions, we can start, or else we can do a little bit of workshop. Like I can make you write something.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Priya, for such enlightening session. I'm sure everyone here has gained a lot of valuable insights. Now it's time for question and answer session. Please, Mas Zakwat, please, the floor is.
Yes, I would like to ask a question to Dr. Lakshmi. This is a question regarding rap. Well, what is the significance of rap in poetry?
In
Or
poetry?
rather, yeah, that's my
Okay.
question. Is it the
Okay.
same? Is it similar? Would rap also be considered poetry, or would it be different?
Okay.
Is it, okay, that's my question.
Okay.
Thank you.
It's a very interesting question. I actually didn't think this question would come at all, but I'll tell you from my own experience. Rap is always seen as a form of a decent literature. If you take American literature, for example, rap is always seen as a black literary element where they use rap to showcase their dissent. Now, that has penetrated so much in India. In India, if you have to reach out to masses, we use rap song. We use rap song to tell something we are against it. If it is a revolutionary information that we are giving, we we use rap for that. Rap has become a part of seeing something as new. Like, for example, there is this famous Tamil rap song. It goes something like, Tichudi, Tichudi, new way, Tichudi. It goes like that, okay? Now, what this Atichudi means, this Atichudi is a poem that is written in 5th century BC. Now they take it up and then they make it into rap so that they introduce those the information, it's basically a didactic text, like it tells, like you have to shower every day, you need to be good to people, you need to wear clean clothes every day, things like that. It is an information piece of a poetry that was written in 5th century. Now if you ask a child of today to read that 5th century material, they won't read, they won't even understand the Tamil, because the Tamil is very pure. But when it becomes a rap song, every child is singing it. Every child is like, Atti Chudi, they sing it. And then unknowingly, without even consciously doing it, they start asking their parents, okay, what is the meaning of this word? What is it actually telling? And then, you create a sort of dissent in it. There is another phenomenal singer. They are Malaysian Tamils. You can just Google out. They are called Yogi B and Nakshatra. This Yogi B and Nakshatra uses rap to again showcase how their particular how do I put it, like in India we have caste system. How we
Yes.
break the caste through rap, because certain musical forms are considered to be highbrow and then rap is considered to be lowbrow, right? So how do you break that? For that, rap becomes an example. For example, in this particular Yogi B and Nakshatra song, it will be like நேற்றன் இரவிலே நிழல்கள் நாடகம் இன்றன் எதிரிலே நிழல்களின் தரிசனம், and then the rap will start, okay, வருங்காலம் வசந்த காலம் நானும் வந்தனம், like that, it will go really 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 fast. So by incorporating rap, what they do is they break the barrier between a didactic text. If you just tell it as an advice to people, they won't listen to it. If you just tell it as an information to people, they won't listen. But rap is a way to make it interesting, make it funny, make them think, make them keep hum it, they can keep humming it all the time. It is the easiest way to get given information. So I think that across the culture, rap is always seen as something that is easier to convey, and also a form of a barrier, a dissent text. I think I've answered your question.
Yes, thank you very much,
Thank you,
Dr.
Mohammed.
Lakshmi.
Thank
Yes,
you.
thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Priya. I think we have another student who wants to ask you,
Yeah.
Mas Muhammad Farooq, please.
Yeah.
You can directly ask the question.
Okay, thank you so much for the time. I will ask some question to, can you hear me? Excuse me. It's my voice audible?
Yes,
Sorry.
Farooq. Yeah, thanks, Farooq.
Okay. I wonder that in the poem writing, that is called sonnet, and what do you think about sonnet and how to improve our skill to write a sonnet? Because I'm recently uh, interested to sonnet by Shakespeare, and I would love to write um, sonnet, and I want some insight from this to give me tips to me to provide some and how to brainstorming to have an idea to start a sonnet. Thank you so much. That's me.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you properly. Can anybody, or you can,
Farooq, can you speak louder, Farooq, or you probably can
or you
chat?
can just put it in the chat box so that
Yes. Can you put it in chat box? Your voice is kind of, unclear.
Or can I sum up Farouk's question? Mas Farouk, his question is about how to improve ability of writing poems.
Huh?
as you are now interested in Shakespearean's poem. Is that your question, Mas?
He's typing.
Yes. So the question is how to improve our skill in writing poems, yeah, Mas Faruk.
How to what?
How to improve our skills. Yeah, in writing sonnet. Oh yeah.
Oh, in writing sonnet.
Mhm.
Sonnet, I'm not an expert in sonnet. To tell you how to improve your writing of sonnet, from my experience, writing anything, if you have to write anything, you have to read that a lot first.
Mhm.
Your writings, if you want to write a sonnet, if you want to become a sonneteer, then the first thing that you have to read is read a lot of sonnet. Generally, when we think of sonnets, we think of Shakespeare. But there are other sonneteers, Spenser, Shakespeare. Then there is Petrarchan sonnet. There are so many other writers whom you can read.
Zakwan
So
mau
the
tanya lagi boleh,
more
Bu?
you read,
Zakwan mau nanya lagi boleh? Mas Zakwan mau nanya lagi boleh? Oh ya.
the more you read, the more you become experienced, and the when you start reading, you will understand the little difference that they have between each other's work, and then you can establish your own unique way of writing sonnet through that. As I said, this whole talk was about, breaking the pattern of rhythm and rhyme. And I don't think I'm an expert to answer your question on sonnet, because sonnet is more rhythm and rhyme based. Sonnet is very restrictive form of writing. But when I was in my school, I did try my hand in sonnet. I actually, we are all very interested in, when we learn a word, we always want to try what it is out. So I did try. As I said, if you have to find a rhyme pattern there, and if it doesn't rhyme, you can use a thesaurus, find out the words that rhyme with it, and then go by the common sense of theme or common sense of tone or emotion that you want to capture in the sonnet. I think that's about it. Thank you so much, Farooq, for asking me that question. Yes, yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, Mas Zakwan, do you have another question for Dr. Pia?
Yes, Dr. Lakshmi, I have another question for you. First of all, I've got to introduce myself the first time. My name is Muhammad Zakwan Zahir Azanda. I am
Mohammed, I got it.
yes,
How do you pronounce it?
Zakwan. Zakwan.
Zakwan.
It's Arabic.
So the
It's
D is
Arabic.
silent here.
Yeah, it's Arabic.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah,
Zakwan. What does Zakwan mean?
Zakwan, if I recall correctly, it means either wisdom or intelligence.
Oh, that's a beautiful word. Okay.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
People usually call me Razan from my last name, Zakir Azanda.
Okay. Yeah, I got it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I have another question for you
Yeah.
regarding poetry and perhaps literature in general, which is you say that modern literature in the 21st century needs to be politically correct. Did I get that right?
Modern literature in 20th century or 21st century? What
21st century.
21st century should?
Be politically correct.
Yes. I don't mean that way. I mean that all the poetry has to be politically correct. Let me put it this way, okay? Let me put it this way. When we read poem like courtly love poetry,
Mhm.
That was written in 17th century,
Yes.
or when we read something like a canonization or other poems, the way the writer, the poet addresses a woman is very sensual. That is
I
okay.
see.
But sometimes it is a little derogatory. If you read Chaucer,
Right.
for example, the way a woman is projected is not right.
Okay, so it's
I
misogynistic.
don't think that's the way you have to project anybody. Forget a woman or a man or a trans man or a trans woman or a trans.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. We live in a generation, we live in a century where we have to respect every single organism in this earth. You can't even, you can't even take it for granted. There are poems that we come across about hunting. There are poems that we come across about deforestation. There are also poems that that says that it is okay to civilize the country, or make a country modern by cutting down the trees. There are poems like that. When we write that poem, there are people who are reading it. How will it influence the people? We need to always be conscious of what we are writing. We have to address physically challenged people and mentally challenged people in a right way in our narrative. As a writer, we have that responsibility. It's a social responsibility that we have to take. So writing becomes a more of a task, in not in the sense of rhythm or rhyme here, but more of a task in the social responsibility that a writer, that a poet, that an author has inside them. I'll put to you in another way. When Shakespeare wrote, or when Chaucer wrote, maximum, there was no printing when Chaucer wrote, right? When Shakespeare wrote, there was no printing. So how many books they would have sold? Have you ever thought of it? How many books they would have sold? How did they sell books? So whatever books came out, they were always written down, right? So maximum, even if there is a person to write it down, even if there is a person whose work only is to write down and sell those books, maybe we can call him a publisher in a different sense. That publisher would have published like 600 books in a year, 700 books in a year. That's all. But today, if you write a post, nearly 6,000 people see it. 600 people see it in a minute. Lakshmi Priya is
Even more.
not famous. But if I put a post, at least 20 people see it in a matter of a minute. So it becomes my social responsibility. For Shakespeare, 20 people to see it. He wrote a complete material, and then he took 20 copies of it, and then a publisher, sold it. Only then they could see it. Imagine the amount of social responsibility that we have in technology. We cannot talk, we cannot support, we cannot go against anything these days. We can only raise our voice against violence. We can only raise our voice against crime. We can only raise our voice against wrong. If we tell something today, it has more value. Tomorrow, the repercussion will definitely come to you. That is true even in their century. Imagine how many of us actually do research paper on Shakespeare, on Wordsworth today, and say that the way he has portrayed certain things is wrong. For example, my teacher always used to tell this particular example from Solitary Reaper of Wordsworth. He'll say, why was this guy looking at a girl who is alone in the field? Because this girl is doing her work. She is standing alone in the field and she is doing this work. This is a man who is narrating this poem. And what does his work? Why is he looking at a girl who is alone in that field? Students ask these questions. Researchers ask this question. So it becomes seriously important for us to have the social responsibility. That's why I'm saying, when you write, see to that you're politically correct. See to that you're conscious about what words you use, who you're offending. Don't offend anybody. Don't be racist. Don't be casteist. Don't be classist. Don't be sexist. Just write for the sake of the beauty of it. Bring universality. Bring people together through your writing. I think I've answered your question.
Okay, Dr. Lakshmi, thank you very much. But may I inquire further into your inputs?
Your inquiry?
Um, my inquiry being that, okay, you have made good points in the sense that through literature we should be able to bring everyone together in harmony, which is
Yes.
which is a good thing. But well, what I see a problem with is the definition of political correctness itself, as
Okay.
political correctness could change depending on what is currently the status quo. That's sort of what I'm asking. There, so perhaps there needs to be a universal morality, so to speak, or something that is greater than political correctness. Because who can define what is politically correct? Who can define it? That's sort of my problem with political correctness
See,
is that
we are
the
treading
fact that it
deep
could change
waters here.
with the status quo. Yeah.
Yes,
Yes.
nobody can define what is politically correct and what is not politically correct. Yes, that's very, very true. Whatever I say can offend you or cannot offend you. It is in your view, it is in my view.
Exactly.
But all that said and done, it's better to avoid something that would hurt somebody, obviously. Let's put it this way. The more clear, when you write something, you are going to read it again. Only then you're going to post it, or only then you're going to give it for others to read. When you read it for the second time, if you feel that, okay, this particular usage of a word is not right way to define something or describe something, just take that word out. So if you feel that way, if it is very clear, if it is very obvious for you that this might offend someone, don't use that. It is better to not use it until your conscious way is to provoke somebody. For example, if you're writing a poem to hurt your friend, like you did something, you shouldn't have done it. If you're writing something like that, then it is fine. But even then, publishing it or putting it in as a post is extremely wrong. I'll tell you something. Words that we speak have power, but words that we write have so much power because it is for eternity. It is going to remain. It is etched. It's etched in paper. You can erase it. You can even tear it and throw it away. But once you post it, it's always going to be there.
Memory sticks.
Yeah. So it's extremely powerful. So that's what I'm saying. It is so important to it's so important to think in that way. For that matter, all the professions have become like that. It's not just poetry, teaching, medicine. I was telling you about this doctor, right? This doctor treats thyroid patients. Now, children who have thyroid are generally stout, okay? But he cannot use that word stout to those children. He cannot say that, you are becoming stout. You should work out a lot more. You cannot say that anymore. You should always say that you are little on the upper end of the scale. Maybe you should think about reducing it a little bit by changing your lifestyle. This is how they have to frame that sentence. I cannot tell. I mean, before even my teacher used to shout at me for my hair. Today, if I go like this, and if my teacher shouts at me, if I am a student, no, if my teacher shouts at me, I can be offended by it. I can take offense in it. You can't talk to the children of today the way we were talked to when we were children.
Yeah.
And look at the elder generation, like, the generation before us. My mother's teacher used to beat her up. Can we go and beat her on children? No, no. Things change.
That
As
is true.
writer, or for that matter in any profession, it is important that we maintain that social responsibility. But
Yeah.
poetry is the best tool for dissent. Dissent, that is where the problem comes. Dissent does not mean that we go around offending somebody. Dissent is just we raising the voice against something that is happening, something, a violence that is happening, something that is wrong that is happening. Dissent is not in hurting others. Let me
Yeah.
give you an example. Imagine I hate somebody for something. I write a post or a poem about it, and then they apologize to me. If I keep hurting them, then it's not right. Since they have apologized, I have to retract my statement. I have to tell, okay, you did a mistake. I pointed it out. You have apologized. I'm ready to let it go. That's the world we live in. Not all punishments has to be punished. Not all mistakes has to be punished. Sorry, not all mistakes has to be punished. We are all human. We are all capable of making mistakes. All this said and done, I could have written something in my 10th standard, and that repercussion may come now. I could have written something in my 12th standard, that repercussion may come now. We do not know. We are all humans. We can error.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Lasmi
Yes.
Priya, yeah,
Sure.
for
Thank you so
the
much, Dr.
insightful
Lakshmi.
answers.
Thank
And yeah, is it answering your question, Mas? Does it answer your question?
Yeah, I believe I can
yeah.
inquire further, but I will stop for today.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Dr.
Thank you.
Lakshmi.
And
Thank
if
you.
there is anything that you want to talk to me about, I'm sharing my mail ID. If any of you have any questions, just you can mail me and ask as well, or you can ask me questions in Facebook or LinkedIn or whichever is comfortable for you.
Okay,
Very
thank
well.
you so
Thank you very
much
much.
for sharing your contact, Dr. Pia, and for the wonderful questions, and of course, Dr. Pia, for the informative answers. Thank you so much. It's been an inspiring and educational session about how to write poems in this era, yes, from in the 21st century context, and how we incorporate our culture, flora, fauna, technology even, to make new kinds of poems that is different from the previous centuries, and about how we use our uniqueness as we have as we are descendants from certain cultures and regions. And as we come to the end of this workshop, I would like to extend our gratitude to Dr. Alasmi Priya for her valuable time and knowledge. I would also like to thank Dr. Rahayu Puji Haryanti M. Hum for her support and guidance in making this event possible. And before ending the session, I would like to ask the help of our operator that we will have now a photo session that is guided. So everyone, please turn on your camera and turn on your video so we can see your beautiful and handsome faces. Yeah, please turn on the camera. Okay, Mas Roban, are you ready? Okay, please stop share. Dr. Priya, could you please stop sharing the materials, the PowerPoints?
On just
Okay, thank you. Okay, okay, are you ready, everyone? Okay, we'll start. And Mas Roban, sudah? Okay, siap? 1, 2, 3. Okay, for the next slides here. 1 and 2, 3. Okay, thank you. Next. 1, 2, 3. We have eight slides, sorry. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Yang lain juga. Okay, 1, yeah, 2, 3. Next, the sixth one. 1, 2, 3. Seventh. 1, 2, 3, and the last ones. Okay, thank you so much. And of course, a big thank you for all of you, our participants, for being here today. And we have an announcement from our study program. So for students who are interested in writing poems, you could please submit the poems with the theme of Indonesia, and we'll made it into an anthology. Please submit it in the Prodi room, and it will be published by us. And for the 4th, and the second announcement is will be on the 4th of October. We still have another session from Dr. Abdul. Your enthusiasm, thank you so much, and your enthusiasm and engagement made this workshop truly special. And we also hope that today's session has sparked your creativity and inspired you to explore the beauty and the art of poem writing. Thank you once again. Have a wonderful day ahead. Thank you very much. Billahi taufiq wal hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you so much, Dr. Laksmi.
Yeah,
and everyone.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi. Thank you, Dr. Laksmi. Thank you, Bu Listi.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Laksmi.
Thank you.
It was really wonderful. Inspired.
Thank you.
Yeah, inspired to write. Okay. We are going to make another anthology. Yeah. Yeah. Okay,
Sudah boleh.
thank you. Ya, ini belum jam 12 ya. Okay, thank you, dear students. Thank you, lecturers, Ibu Margawati. Thank you very much, Dr. Hendrikus. Thank you.
Kami, Bu
Ya.
Yayu, saya izin live. Sampai
Iya,
ketemu
Bu
lagi.
Almira, thank you very much.
Sampai ketemu di dekan.
Iya, Bu Maria. Okay, thank you. Yeah, there's another session next week, yeah, with Dr. Abdul about what is that, tips to write also, yeah, okay, in writing, maybe other forms than poetry, but still we are about to produce an anthology that you can participate in it. Okay, yes, hopefully we become productive, yeah, with what is that, works of literature. Terima kasih semuanya. Puisi bisa dibuat lalu dikumpulkan di prodi, akan kita barengkan dengan karya-karya dosen, kita terbitkan ya.